Heyo folks, what's going on? Welcome to the Fishing Norm YouTube channel. Comment of the day is popping up down below, so make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and the bell. Leave a comment down below in this video for your chance to be next video's comment of the day. So today we are actually here at Walmart. You can't really tell because there's a tree in the way, but today I thought we'd do like a top 5 bass fishing lures in the fall. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. Normally I like taking you guys along on my fishing adventures and just entertain you guys with my fishing trips, but today we're actually going to be doing more of like an educational video where I'm going to be talking about what I'm going to be doing this fall to try to target some big bass. And I think it's going to be super cool for you guys to learn as well and go out and catch big bass of your own instead of just watching me go and catch bass. You guys can also implement some stuff you learned from this video, and hopefully we can all be catching big trophy largemouth bass this fall. I'm gonna put the camera down real quick just so we can go over some fall fishing basics before we go look at the lures, just so you guys can understand why I'm choosing the lures that I choose to throw. Obviously, okay, there we go. So obviously you can still catch bass on every single lure basically in the fall, but these are just gonna be like my 5 favorite lures to do so. Basically in the fall, bass are going to be chasing whatever type of bait fish is in their lake slash pond. So that would be shad, shiners, bluegill, whatever you guys have in your ponds. You're basically going to be wanting to match the hatch of whatever you have. Around where I am, there's a lot of shad and a lot of shiners in different lakes and ponds. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing to choose for where I live. But if you guys have bluegill in a lot of your spots, bluegill patterns will work as well. For these bass in the fall, their metabolisms are super high. They're going on a feeding frenzy. So basically it's the easiest time of year, in my opinion, besides maybe spring bed fishing, to catch your biggest bass of all time, because that same bass in summer that you were working a worm right in front of and it didn't want to touch it, in the fall they get a little bit more dumb and easier to catch because there's so much action going on. There's fish chasing bait fish, and then before you know it, one of those 8, 9, 10 pounders is gonna bite a moving bait, and all these fish are now chasing stuff, and they get a little bit less smart in the fall. So if that makes any sense, basically fall is the time of year to try to catch your biggest bass, and I think that you guys can do it, and also that I'm gonna try to do it this fall. But with all that said, guys, we kind of understand a little bit about fall fishing, how those bass are just chasing whatever type of bait fish is in there. Metabolisms are high, and basically it's the easiest time of year to catch them. Throwing moving baits, a big bass will now chase down a lure, whatever you're throwing, instead of like in the summer when their metabolisms are low, they're not trying to feed, and you can wiggle a worm right in front of their face and they're not gonna say anything about it. So we're gonna go to Walmart. I'm gonna show you guys my top 5. We're also probably gonna do some honorable mentions because it's hard to just choose 5 lures, but hopefully you guys will learn something out of today's video, and hopefully you'll be able to throw some of these lures at your own ponds and lakes and be able to catch some big bass. Let's go. All right, folks, we're in the Walmart fishing section. I know with like all these baits in here that it might be hard to choose which lures are best for fall fishing, but that's why I'm here. I know everybody's Walmarts are slightly different when it comes to lure selection, like what they have actually on the shelves, but I figured everybody has a Walmart, so this video will hopefully be helpful to all of you instead of going to like a Bass Pro Shops or Academy, because I know a lot of you guys don't have one of those near you. So we're gonna kind of break down this fall fishing lure thing from top water to like mid-water to also like bottom, because during the fall you can catch them on each level of water. So starting at the top, my 2 favorite top water baits of all time is definitely like a walking bait and also a popper. So the great thing about a walking bait, probably my #1 choice for fall bass fishing, is you can cover a ton of water. This is exactly what it looks like right here. I go for a shad color because we got shad everywhere where I'm at. That would be the perfect walking bait. You can cover a ton of water with this thing, find those schooling bass, and I always have one of these tied on in the fall, because if you ever see shad busting on top of the water, that means bass are right there below them. And throwing this, a lot of times bass will come up and slam it. It's the most fun way to catch them when they're schooling, for sure, is on a top water. But also, once I find those fish, I will put down the spook sometimes after I've caught as many as I can on it, and I will switch to a popper. Another great topwater fishing lure, looks like a dead bait fish on top of the water, just kind of barely moving. And this is what a popper looks like. There we go, right there. A popper is a great topwater fishing lure. A lot of times I'll even catch a massive fish on poppers. I don't know what the deal is with that, but a popper is kind of like my second topwater choice, I guess. But if you were to only throw one topwater lure, it would be a spook, just because you can cover all that water. Pick #1, the topwater spook. Probably my #1 choice for a topwater lure. This is what I'm gonna be throwing if I have nothing else tied on for topwater. This would be the #1 bait choice for me. So that's gonna be lure 1 out of 5 here at Walmart. So moving on to moving baits, get it? Anyways, moving on to baits that move. through the water. My favorite of all time, you guys probably already know, is the rattle trap. So right here they actually have all the really good ones in stock. All of the shad patterns here, a lot of the shiners actually, and some of the lakes around here look exactly like these with a black back and also silver on the side, or some of them even have blue backs with silver and a little red on the bottom to make it look like it's bleeding. Those are like my two favorite colors for this time of year, but maybe you guys have like golden shiners where you're at, and that gold would work better where you guys live than where the silver works the best where I live. Also, another one of my favorite colors, they don't have it here, but it is exactly, but it is exactly like this, but in a rattle trap form. Looks exactly like a shad as well. So silver and that color are my favorite for rattle traps. Silver rattle trap, lure number 2 out of my 5 favorite fall fishing lures. Okay, so another really good moving bait, actually 2, would be the chatterbait and the spinnerbait. So I actually have the spinnerbait and the chatterbait laid here out on the floor for you guys so I can give you a little explanation on these. But basically during the fall, these bass are chasing schools of bait fish. This chatterbait right here only represents 1 shad, but on the spinnerbait, each one of these little spoons here on the side represents a fish. So that's 1 fish, 2 fish, 3 fish. So normally during the fall, I will be choosing a spinnerbait over a chatterbait. But don't get me wrong, the chatterbait will still definitely catch them. Pretty much year round, that means the spring, the summer, and the winter, I will be throwing the chatterbait. But when fall comes around, those fish, especially the big fish, are chasing those schools of shad, and that's where the spinnerbait comes in. Every single fisherman should have a spinnerbait in their tackle box. And when fall rolls around, this is the time that you guys need to be throwing this. Also throwing a trailer on the back. Like, let's actually find one of those real quick. Here we go. So here in Walmart, they have the Rage Swimmers. This whitetail right here would perfectly match it. I'll put one of those on the end of my spinnerbait just like you would a chatterbait, and that's like the perfect combo for catching fish. So far we have a walking bait, my favorite Topwater bait for the fall. Also, we have a rattle trap, great to bring it through the schools. Then we have the spinnerbait, another great bait to bring it through schools, around grass, stuff like that. But there's also one more moving bait that works extremely well. We're just gonna do this as an honorable mention because I want to mention it. I know a lot of people have a ton of luck in the fall on these. I don't so much where I'm from, but I know a lot of other people do. And that would be the square bill. As you guys can tell, these also look exactly like shad. This is the sexy shad color, believe it or not. So if you guys have dirtier water where you're at, I would go with more like a chartreuse color. But if you have more clear water, I would go with one of these shad square bills right here. Now, where I would throw these square bills over, say, a rattle trap, I like throwing rattle traps when I see schools and bringing it through, but I will throw these square bills if I'm around rocks, if I'm around trees, docks, anything like that, any type of structure. These square bills get through a lot easier because they actually have that bill on the front, which helps them deflect off of structure like that, which also helps bass have a reaction strike on them. They just can't stand it when it hits their log that they're sitting on. And in the fall, bass are gonna push these bait fish up onto stuff like rocks, stuff like wood, anywhere where you're fishing a bank and then all of a sudden it kind of makes a little turn or a pocket, anything that sticks out. A lot of the times those shiners, those shad are going to be pushed up onto there, and that's where the square bill comes into handy whenever you're fishing somewhere where there should be shiners or shad, and also there's a ton of structure around. Okay, so moving on to baits that go on the bottom of the water. This is what happens basically when all these baits that I just mentioned aren't working and you kind of have to resort to this. But my first lure is going to be a jig. Crawfish spawn in the spring and the fall, so there's going to be a ton of craws crawling around. Also, bass are feeding up on bluegill in the fall as well, which a jig does a great job of representing both a bluegill and a craw. So what I would go with here that they have at Walmart is probably, I don't know, I'm kind of liking this color, but basically I'd get a natural color and also a black and blue color depending on the water clarity. And then for a trailer, I really do like, where are they at? Normally when I'm at Walmart, I get the Zoom Speed Cross. So if you guys have those at your Walmart, I'd recommend those. I like a really small presentation on a jig. I feel like you can catch a lot more fish on that. So I'll use like a small flipping jig and a small little Zoom Speed Cross trailer. But we do not have any of those here. So I would go with basically any trailer that's kind of small. Something like this river bug right here would actually be perfect. So this combo actually looks really good. I've never thrown it before, so don't quote me on it, but the Strike King jig right here, I like a smaller flipping jig, and then also these match the color perfectly, these little craws right here, and this would be a great way to replicate the craws that are spawning and also the bluegills. So this is bait number 1 that I would be throwing off of the bottom during the fall. Now, if absolutely none of these things that I've recommended are working for you guys, the day's just really tough, you don't see them schooling on shad, and they're not biting any of the moving baits, even the jig, because the jig can be harder to get bites on just because it's a little bit bigger of a presentation. I think something that's really important to have for backup would always be some type of worm. This is just your backup plan. Just if you really want to catch a fish that day, they're not biting anything else, I would throw the Cincos or maybe even like a Texas rigged worm. Anything here really works as long as you're hopping it up and down off the bottom. Depending on the lake and pond you're in, you guys will obviously find your favorite baits for those areas, but I found that the Cinco around where I'm at, it always works. It's just you don't always want to throw it. You want to try to catch them on other stuff first before you have to resort to this. But this is going to be lure number 5 to complete our top 5 bass fishing lures would be the Cincos. Now I'm gonna check all of these out, and for those of you guys who made it this far into the video, I really do appreciate it. So we're gonna be giving away these lures to one of you lucky winners. All you guys have to do is be subscribed to my channel and hit the like button. Those 2 simple steps, you guys are entered to win basically the ultimate Walmart fall fishing package right here. We're gonna go ahead, check out, and I want to show you guys a few more lures that I really do enjoy fishing with in the fall that they don't have at Walmart that you guys can order online that I think are definitely worth it. Okay folks, you guys are now sitting on the hood of my car, and I'm gonna go over some of the baits that we didn't get to go over in Walmart just because they didn't have them. But if you get one thing out of this video, just know that fall is the time of year where bass are feeding on the most bait fish out of any other time of the year. So anything that represents a bait fish, the stuff we went over, jerk baits, all this other stuff will work extremely well. So also, bass do not read textbooks. So everything that I'm showing you here today on your lake, it might not work, and something else that I haven't even mentioned will work the best there. So just keep that in mind. These are my favorites, but also, I mean, sometimes they cannot work, but this is what I'm gonna be throwing this time of year. I just got a huge order off of Carl's Bait and Tackle here. Got a ton of boxes. I think I spent $199, but it would originally cost $280. So if you guys want to save 30% on your tackle, I'll leave a link there down below for you guys where you can get all the stuff that I'm going to be throwing this fall especially. I like going to Walmart to buy individual stuff, but when I would do a bulk order, I want to save a ton of money. That's when I shop on Carl's Bait and Tackle. Okay, so first things first, probably my favorite bait to throw overall in the fall is spinner baits. So I got a bluegill pattern because I have a lake that's very clear and there's a ton of bluegill in there. That's where I'll be throwing this. Also, I got a spinner bait with a chartreuse. That's for a little bit of dirtier water. When the water's clear, I just got the original shad pattern. Then we got chatterbaits because chatterbaits will still work. Maybe they'll work better than the spinner baits at some days and some lakes. So I got the same color scheme going there, but for 3 chatterbaits. I also went with the jackhammer, which is like the more expensive one. But I figure if I'm making videos for you guys, if it even increases my chance of catching 1 more fish out of 100, I'm gonna go with the more expensive ones just so I can give you guys the best content possible. Also, for all the trailers that I'm gonna be using, I got a ton of different Exo swims. I got these for the chartreuse ones, and then a ton of different shad colors in different sizes. Exo swims to date are my favorite. To date are my favorite paddle tail swim baits. Have great action. They're also super durable and they're really cheap. So that works. Also, flukes are another really great thing to throw. I've been throwing the bio baits around. Absolutely love these guys, and unlike any other company, these things are made in America. They're biodegradable, and also they print really cool patterns on them just like this. So this is a perch color, and this is a largemouth bass color. They have a ton of different colors. So I'll be throwing around a lot of these flukes as well. Also, something I'm really excited to throw is the baby bull shad. As you guys can tell, that looks exactly like a shad. And I used to throw the big versions of these around, catch a ton of big bass. And this actually brings me to my next point, which is all of these are my big swim bait box. And maybe you'll only catch 1 or 2 fish in a day during the fall, but this is the time of year to be throwing these big swim baits around. So I got all these. Obviously, if there's bluegills, I'll be throwing that guy around. Shad, stuff like this, I'll be throwing the S-Waver. S-Waver is a pretty cheap glide bait. I think it's only like 20-something bucks compared to like the hundreds you can spend on other ones. Also, this is the color of the rattle trap that I was trying to show you guys they didn't have there. I got these, silver, gold, and red. Those are the 4 colors I go with. And so I restocked up on these. These are the type of jigs I like. These are little flipping jigs. Got one in a green, got one in a black and blue. And the trailers that I use are the Zoom Speed Craws in both a green and a blue color. Then we have our square bills. Same thing as always. I get 3 different colors. These are all actually shad colors. I'll throw this one in dirtier water, these 2 in clearer water, and then also I have a bluegill pattern one, but I can't find it right now. And besides that, guys, this is kind of like my Topwater box. The number 1 spook I'll probably be throwing this year is this guy right here. Has a really great shad pattern, but also there's a ton of poppers, spooks in there that I will also be tossing around because one day they might not be biting that one and they'll be biting something else like crazy. You just never know. Then in here, the box I'm probably going to be using the most besides like my spinnerbait, swim jig, and chatterbait box is going to be the crankbaits, square bills, rattle traps, all those guys in there. But yeah, that is basically it, folks. I hope this helps you catch some more big bass this fall. I know it will probably help me. And tag me if you guys are catching big bass and you use some of these tips and you found them helpful. I love getting those DMs on Instagram of you guys catching big bass and saying that you fished with something I fished with and it worked for you. If you made it to the end of the video, obviously you enjoyed, so leave it with a like. Also, do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you do not miss awesome fishing videos this fall with me fishing with all these baits and stuff. I'm telling you guys, we're gonna catch a trophy bass this fall. If it is the death of me, it's going to happen. But anyways, guys, until the next video, fish bump, we're out of here.